Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Corrine. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. So, today we're continuing on with the last of my coloring series. So, this is coloring 301. And so, that's going to be coloring with alcohol markers. This is a great way to color. However, it is also one of the most expensive. I'm not going to lie. These markers do require an investment. There are some less expensive ways that you can go about it, but the actual marker cost is, it can be really out there. So I'm just showing you an example here of some of the images that I colored using alcohol marker inks. I have these adorable little stamp sets that are these little monster aliens, and I've just filled in the helmets where the glass would be with some glossy accents. This is actually an adorable stamp set that came from the Dollar Tree. I know this was $1.50 here in Canada, so it'd be $1.25 in the States, but here in Canada it's $1.50 now. And then it's another little cute one, and it comes with this really great sentiment. Hope your birthday is out of this world. So that's the first card. So I'm going to be coloring these images in again tonight and then creating a card with it, very similar to what I've already done. But this is the second one that I've done. So I love to do use alcohol inks mostly for images like of people beings. Well, these are gnomes, so they're not really people, whatever. Um, but anything that I want to add a little bit of depth and dimension to. So I've already shown you how to do depth and dimension, shades and highlights using pencil crayons. That was coloring 101. And then the following video was coloring 201, which was using watercolor markers and how to add depth and dimension with those ones. So I like to use pencil crayons when I'm doing people or, well, yeah, actually with people, it's really easy to usually to get into the smaller detailed areas. I like to use watercolor markers when I'm doing like landscapes and things like that. But for images like these, I really like to use alcohol markers. They're my favorites to use. So this was a medium that I did not think that I was going to get into, and then I saw a couple of videos, and I found some really great markers that allowed me to invest without having to have 500 different markers. So I just want to state from the offset here that I am by no means a coloring expert. I just know what I like, and I'm just going to give you some tips and tricks in order to uh, hopefully help you be a little bit more pleased with the results of your project, kind of thing. If you are looking for to follow or to look on YouTube for some people who do really wonderful coloring. You can also you can Google alcohol marker coloring or search out Copic, Copic marker coloring. A couple of people that I follow that I know do really wonderful work with alcohol marker coloring is one is Christina Werner, and that's WERN is in Nancy ER. Another one is Nicole Spore, and I believe that's SPHOR. So and she'll put the markers to the side, the caps and everything, so you can see what she's been coloring, what shades she used, and things like that. Mary Polanco, so that's POLANA, and well, maybe it's CCO. But anyway, she's one of my favorites to follow because she's just funny and she likes to do cost-effective crafting, and she has some really great videos on how to choose your markers. She has great tried out um, videos on great paper. How to find good paper that's not the most expensive, but can give you the results that you're looking for. She has a review of a bunch of different kinds of alcohol markers, white gel pens, black gel pens, alcohol markers, what else? Trimmers, adhesives, which ones are really great to use and which ones are the most cost effective, but give you really good results. Anyway, yeah, I follow her and like to watch a lot of her videos. This is one of the areas where I would not suggest going to Jennifer McGuire. She actually really doesn't like to color. She doesn't feel like she's very good at it. So, she does very simple, basic coloring, which I also do as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you just want to have that colored. But if you want to start introducing shades, highlights, tones, things like that, and how to move from one color to the next and getting a nice smooth blend along your colors. Basically, that's what I'm going to show you today. And if you decide that you like the technique and you want to invest more in it, then by all means, there are people out there that are truly, truly artists at this particular medium, and I suggest that you follow them because it's not me. Okay, and this background was done by my friend. She decided she didn't like it, but it's actually photo paper that's been run through an embossing machine, and then I believe these are spray oxides on it, and it's just gorgeous. And I just thought this would just be really, really cute. This is the stamp set that I have. The little gnomes and want to go to the craft store, so they're all doing some paper crafting. And then on the inside, so this will be a birthday card for one of my crafty friends: eat, sleep, craft, and repeat. And then happy birthday, and this little tag was another little one for inside. Okay, then it also comes with this little stamp, and then the die, which is also really nice to have, and it says handmade and heartfelt, so it's a cute little stamp set. Okay, so I'm going to start here with a couple of versions of what you can find out there. Okay, so this, I'm going to put this to the side here. This is the image I'm going to start with coloring. Okay, so these are a Copic marker, and you can get them in, this is the colorless blender. This is the key. Whatever you're doing with alcohol markers, you definitely need a colorless blender. Now, whether it's Copic or Spectrum Noir has one as well. These ones just have bullet tips and a chisel nib, versus Copic is usually comes, you can get it with the with a brush tip. The nice thing about Copic markers is they are refillable. You can buy re-inkers for these. You pull out, using your tweezers, you can pull out the nib, and then you can refill the reservoir in here so that you will always have these. Once you invest in this particular pen, you can get replacement nibs, you can get replacement ink, and so these are the most expensive out on the market. However, you'll also have them for a long time. I've had this set. I don't have the full set of Copics, but the set that I got is by Spectrum Noir, and I've had them for a couple of years, and I've done quite a bit of coloring. If you find that you're wanting artist quality and you're really really in it for the long haul, then Copics is probably what you're going to want to invest in. Okay, this is just might show up a little bit better on camera here. This is just a light blue color of a Copic. Okay. So Copic, as far as I know, because these are what I got from Michaels, these are ones, colorless blender you need. And there's a couple other techniques that I use with glitter and alcohol mark. Anyway, so I've had some of these, but this is my good coloring one. So that one I keep. These ones were some Copics that were on sale at Michaels. They were like $1.99 or something like that. They were clearing them out. I think they were getting new packaging for Copic or something. And so I bought a bunch of colors. I probably got about 16, like lighter blues and some flesh tones and some grays and things like that. And so this one has, this is the Chow, Copic Chow. So that's another one that's sort of available. Spectrum Noir is another, this is a crafting company, usually for like paper crafting. And this is an artist quality pen. Not quite as good as the Copics. However, this is a nice mid-range pen to get into. They have the Illustrator set. These have a very fine point. And then a brush tip. And these ones, I think I actually got from Winners or something like that. Yeah, I think that's where I got those ones from. Same with these Spectrum Noir. These are just their regular ones. So this is a bullet tip in the black, and then there's the chisel tip. And this is the colorless blender. Now, what made me change my mind about alcohol markers is the Spectrum Noir Tri Blends. And the reason why it helped me change my mind is because in each pen, you can't see it here, but it has the light, the medium, and the dark tone. So out of this particular pen, I can get all three shades. I can get my lightest tone where the light is, I can get my mid grade, and then I can also get my dark tone all in one pen. So instead of like with the Copics, I'll show you here, I have 3 shades of gray. Here. So I have 3 shades of gray. I have a light, a mid, and a dark. And in fact, there's probably ones in between. So this is C3, C5, C7. So there would also be C1, which would be the lightest, right? So these are the dark, medium, and light tones. But in the Spectrum Noir, I can get all of those in one pen. So if I'm picking up to color a particular image, all I have to do if I want to color it, if I want to color it this particular dark red shade, I only need this one pen. I don't have to have 4, 5, 6 pens of purples or of reds or of grays or of whatever. I just need this one pen, and I will get enough of a spectrum that it will blend from light to dark very nicely. Okay. That's what, when I watched a few videos and somebody using these, I thought, oh, maybe I can do that. And that's where I started with my alcohol marker coloring. Because a lot of the guesswork was taken out in how to get those beautiful blends and shades and highlights and everything like that. So it made it so much easier. If you're looking for another good quality marker, I don't have them, but one of the women that I told you about that I follow, Mary Polanco, she found a brand called Ohuhu, which is OHUHU, I believe. It's on Amazon. You can find there are a whole bunch of them, and they have introduced alcohol markers. Unfortunately, though, their labeling does not follow the standard system, which is like this is B000. So this is a blue. So the name on it is porcelain pale blue. So it's very low. And then if I wanted to go a shade darker, it would be B003 or 001 to add those shades. They don't necessarily go in a ascending order or any kind of that. So she's actually, she has a Etsy shop that has a color chart on it. Anyway, so those are a variety of the markers that are available. Okay, and those are just the ones that I have. There might even be more. In fact, I'm sure there probably are more. I don't have them, and so yeah, I can't really speak to them and how good they are or how good they aren't. All I've got is these ones here, and so that's what I'm going to do. So the next helpful piece of advice that I have is make sure that you swatch out. So whether you purchase the swatch, like Copic has a color chart that you can purchase that has all of the little pixelated and what colors go together and everything like that. Fortunately enough, with Spectrum Noir, I was able to print this off onto cardstock so that I know that how it is going to shade onto the cardstock that I usually color on. And it tells me then exactly. So this is, for example, my dark red shades pen. Okay, so this is my marker that is the dark red shades. And this is what it gives me. And then I can color in the light, the mid, and the dark. And then what I did is I did a little bit of the light to the medium, and then the medium. I brought in a little bit of the light in the medium, and then the dark, and then the medium into the dark so that I would see what my blends are. Okay? Because your pen, the cap color is not always going to make to match and meet what the colors are. It's also very easy to look over, and I usually have this sitting to the side on my computer or whatever, and then I like to look at it to reference, okay, what color would I like to use? So I can see here like this ice blue blend, these colors, these 4 colors go really well together. I can bring in this blue if I need to, but if I start going here, even these colors like the jade greens, the jade green blend, green turquoise, the blue turquoise, aqua blue, blue turquoise shades, those 7 colors all really blend really well together. These 5 sets of greens blend really well together. all of these different pinks, but I want to know how is it going to react on my paper before I go and color my image. So that's why it's a really good idea to swatch out your colors. So this worked really well for the tri-blend markers, which I told you this is why I got into this. However, as I also told you, I ended up hitting up my local Michaels and getting some items that were on sale. So I wanted to swatch those out as well. Now it's difficult to see because of course it has bled through my paper a little bit, but these are the 3 shades of the gray that I pulled out for you in my Copics. So of these ones here. Okay, so this is C5, so that's the mid-tone. This is the lighter tone, mid-tone, the darker tone. I've got some yellow with some red in it. So it gives me these really beautiful peach tones, which are, I don't know if those can see. Yeah, so YR00, YR000, YR000. So these 2 shades are actually the same because I bought the marker twice because that's what you do when you get excited about things on sale. So the other thing that it's really good to see here is I have a Y21 and a Y23 right here. I'm not sure if you can see that, how well that's going to come through on camera. So I've got, let me see if I can get a picture here. So I've got Y21 right here. Look at the difference between, because this is also the same tone, but it has a different value to it. So this is, or sorry, same shade value, YR21, but this one has just a little bit more rose or red to it. So you can see this is still 21. So this is the same value, just has a slightly different tone. That's also why you want to be swatching out your colors. Okay. This is the difference here between E000 and E00 right there. Whoop, there, let's get it into shade. So E00 and E000 right here to the left. It's not a lot of difference, but just enough that it can off-put your color. Okay, so you want to, that's tip number 2. Okay, you want to make sure that you are swatching out your colors. So I'm just going to put that off to the side now because I'm going to get into color. So the other thing that I really like about alcohol coloring with alcohol markers, is that when I make a mistake, if I go out of the line somewhat or something, you can actually take your colorless blender. That's what this is for. It doesn't actually blend colors. If you ever use alcohol inks, like the ones that you drop, the Ranger or who else has some? Lavinia Stamps has some, and you use rubbing alcohol on them, it pushes the color all away. So that's what this actually does. This doesn't blend color, so it's not going to like take your blue and match it into your red. That's not what it does. The pens themselves, the alcohol in the pens themselves do that. This is actually for removing color. So it's a bit of a misnomer when it says colorless blender. Okay. So if you make a mistake, so you color, oops, something else here. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up here. So when you've made a mistake, you have to let the alcohol marker, the color that you've laid down, you have to let it dry before you try and remove anything. So for example, this here was a complete circle, and I took my colorless blender and I ran it along the edge here in between. And what it does is it pushes the color. Okay, it pushes the color away so you can push it back into the area where you want it to be. So you can see here, I purposely, I did this before the video so that it would have a little bit of time to dry. Alcohol markers dry very quickly, but I wanted to make sure it was good and dry because I'm dealing with 2 very saturated colors here, okay? So you can see here where I purposely went out with this red line, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm going to start saturating the paper. And I'm just kind of pushing, I'm doing this pushing motion with my pen or my marker, whatever you want to call it. And I'm pushing it in a direction. And then I'm going to clean that off. Okay. So you can see there, now it is bleeding just a bit into the rest of the white paper, but you can see it's definitely not as vibrant as it was when I first started, but I'm not finished yet. Ooh. So I'm just going to keep applying. Just applying still just a little bit. I want to get it back to, basically I want to try and bring that line back to where it was. And I'm taking the tip of my marker and I'm just wiping it off on clean white paper, because it will pick up some of that ink as well, right? So I want to make sure that that's not coming through. So I'm going to let that dry for a little bit, because you can see it's actually bleeding right through. It's bleeding right through my paper, which is fine. And this will be able to be picked up just like that. Okay. Clean that up, and then I can clean that off of my paper here. So I'm going to let that dry. And now I'm going to show you here. So I went right through the blue right here, through that blue circle. And it's really hard to see. There's not much anything left. But you can see here where I've got this little bubble where I kind of went out of the line. So I'm going to come through here and I'm going to push that back in. I want to thin that out because I didn't want it to be that thick. So I've saturated the paper around it. And now I'm just taking my tip and I'm drawing and pushing back to where I want it to be, creating the shape that I want it to be. So just like when you're using regular inks and you're doing blending, it's very important to have a nice smooth paper. You want to do this on good quality cardstock. Alcohol will go through. Okay, so you do want to, sometimes it's good to have a good surface, but again, because it's alcohol, if you use hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol, or your colorless blender, you can pick it up, right? So it's not permanent. It's permanent to a point. Don't get this on your clothes. If you get it on your clothes, that might be there permanently. Okay. So even though on my blender here, it looks like it's dirty now because I picked up where that black was, it's not. That actually is drawing clear. It's not showing any gray or anything like that. Okay. My red area should be dry enough for me to start pushing that back in. And I picked these two colors. Red is actually the worst one to try and do because it often just, it saturates everything and leaves a faint outline. So I picked this one on purpose just so that you could see the results. If I really wanted to spend a ton of time here, I could get this back to almost white. I don't know that I'm going to get it right back to perfect white. But the blue is a heavy saturation point as well. And in fact, I've saturated it so much, leading off the other side, so I can just go in and push that back just a bit. Okay. So I've smoothed and taken away that harsh edge that was there. And you can see that red line that was poking out there is almost gone. Still see a little bit, but really I need to take it from the other side here as well to thoroughly get it out of there. But I also usually am not having to work with that large of a space. Okay. So I'm just going to move on to the next one and actually get into showing you some coloring. So this is the image that I'm going to color today. And again, it's very important. You have to pay attention to what kind of ink are you using. I again recommend, if you are going to be if you're using alcohol inks, you either need to be using a water-based ink. So Memento is excellent for alcohol marker coloring. Okay. Or you can use what I use, which is an amalgam ink. I use the Gina K Designs amalgam ink in Obsidian Black. I have a reinker for this. I love this ink because I don't have to think about it. I like to pre-stamp, as I showed everybody. I have whole bunch of images here that I have cut out and, well, on things, because I like to just take this with me oftentimes to a prop, or if I'm just feeling like not getting into a really big card project, I like to sit and color. And I never know what medium I'm going to use, whether it's pencil, crayons, watercolor, or if it's going to be alcohol markers. So by using the amalgam ink, I can use it with either water-based products. So I can use it with my Crayola markers or my Tombow markers, or watercoloring if I want to get out some painting. Or I can use it with an alcohol or a solvent-based coloring medium, which when we're using pencil crayons, we're using Gamsol or mineral spirits to move the color around. So that is a solvent base, which would, if you were using a pigment ink, would, what's the word that I'm looking for, bleed or smudge your ink. With the Gina K Designs, the amalgam ink, any amalgam ink, scrapbook.com carries one now. I believe Simon Says Stamp, and there are a couple other companies as well carry amalgam inks. Please see my Stamping 101 for more information. My Stamping 101 video is out from a while ago, and it talks a lot about what kind of ink to use and when. But you can use this for any kind of medium, including alcohol ink coloring. Okay. But however, if you don't have that one, you are welcome to use Memento. That's the word that I'm looking for. Sorry. Had a minor brain fart there. So what you can't see off to the side here is I have this really awesome case that I got last year for Christmas, and I just love it. And it keeps all of my markers in them. Okay. And then it's easy to travel with. This comes from Amazon. Have you found it? And I just love it. So I'm going to use, so all of these colors. So the Spectrum Noir, in order to have the light, mid, and dark tone of the Spectrum Noir tri blends, there's 48. It's a set of 40. You get a set of 24 and then another set of 24. And I got both sets because I just had to have them all, and they're so pretty. And I use them a lot. So that's what I'm going to do today. And I'm just going to pick random colors. But I'm going to start with this guy, and I'm going to use for his hat, I think, I'm going to use a blue. So I'm going to use the True Blue Blend, which is this one right here. So let's see if you can see it. It's that one right there. Okay. And I'm going to start with his hat. So on this particular stamp, I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me see if I can point them out. So we've got a lot of surface area here where it's kind of white. And then along the edges, you can see these fine dots. Well, those little dots are meant to be shaded areas. Okay. So one of the things to practice is deciding, where do I want my light source? So if I was holding this up like this towards my light, okay, so the sun was coming down. This is where my light is right now, which is why you're getting some shadows. But the sun is coming down, so the lightest part would be at the top of his head. His nose on the top would have light, but down here would have a shadow. Sorry, down here would have a shadow. Underneath his hat, where it's the brim is, you can see here where the stamp is delineating. There's going to be some shadowed areas there. Underneath by this heart, under his clothes, under his beard here, that would have. Now, if I was deciding that my light source was directly in front of him, then the center of his nose would be light, and then the outside would be darker. This strip right here on the top of his hat, that's where the light would be hitting him the most. And then as you got further around his body, this edge and this edge would be where the shadows would be. If I was deciding that he was uplit, so he was standing on a light, he was on some sort of road or something that had some lighting on the ground, so he would be lit this way. Well, the bottoms of his shoes would have the most light, but the tops would be very much in shadow. The bottom of his beard, this area, the underside of his nose would be bright and shiny versus, and the top would be dark. Now that's a not necessarily the most natural of poses for lighting, but that's what we would look at. So I'm going to color this hat, which has this larger area, and I'm going to start with my lightest color. Okay, and I'm going to saturate the entire hat. Okay, so I'm going to go in here with my light blue color. Okay, And it's the best thing to do when you're alcohol marker coloring is you want to try and keep everything wet. Okay? You want to color into the wet. And I'm going to show you the easiest technique here, okay, which is going from light to medium to dark, back to medium, then back to light. That is the easiest way. You will see professionals or like people who are really experienced at coloring, they can go from dark to medium to light and be done with it. They don't have to do that extra step. But because I'm still fairly new, I can do some dark to light. But I highly recommend when you're starting out and getting used to your light sources and things like that, that you go from light to mid to dark. Okay. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring my mid-tone. And the truth is that your mid-tone is usually the color that you're going to use the most. Okay. And so I'm starting where the deep shadows, where it shows me all of these, all those little dot marks are, where it's telling me that there's supposed to be a shadow there. And I'm kind of just flicking with my pen. So I'm just flicking it. I want it to have, I don't want a harsh break. I want it to be a little more organic. So that means that I'm flicking just a little bit. It's still going to be, because I don't have the brush tips on these, they do come with brush tips. I just don't happen to have those ones. Okay, so that is my second. So I've colored one layer and the second layer. So that's my mid. Now I'm going to go in with my dark tone. Okay, so that's just on the same pen. So I just have to make sure that I've turned it to the right area. And now I'm just going to basically just add color where the stamp is telling me to. Okay, so your dark tone is usually the one you're going to use the least. Mid-tone and light is going to be more used. That's not proper English. You're going to use those ones more than anything else. And there's a little bit here. And then I'm also following, it doesn't show it there, but I am also following just a little bit of the patchwork here. Okay. So I've gone from light to mid to dark, and I'll lift that up so you can see it. Okay, so already we're starting to see some transitions, some light and shades. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I can go back in with my mid-tone just to draw that out a little bit. And so I'm going over everywhere. So I'm going back over the dark and going back over where I colored previously with the mid-tone, not necessarily making it as big as what I had done before, but I am going back over those shades, particularly going back over the dark. And what this does is this adds more product or more color, more alcohol into your paper, into the saturation level. Okay, so it begins to blend your dark into your mid, into your light. Okay, so let's see if you can see that there. You don't see a really harsh line. You're still seeing a bit of a harsh line. Okay, now I'm going to go in with the light, and I'm going all the way over it, all the way again, over the dark, over the medium, everything that I have colored previously. What this will do is it will take the tone of this lighter shade and have that blend in with the shades that are there, the dark and the light, or the dark and the mid. There we go. Okay. Now that will dry back a little bit as it dries, okay, because you can still see some lines, but that's okay. It's you're supposed to see those. It's going to trick your eye into looking like it's got depth and dimension, right? So this is the other thing with alcohol markers. You have to watch because you will it can bleed through. That's why it's not the greatest thing to be using if you're in a coloring book, for example. So I'm also going to create this as his, I want to use this for his little, I'm assuming these are pants. Who knows? So I'm going with the dark. Then I'm going to go in with the mid. Or sorry, I'm starting with the light. Now I'm going in with the mid. And now I'm going to go in with the dark. And I'm just following, again, pardon me, where the stamp is telling me to color. And for this one, because it's such a small area, I'm going to skip the going back to the mid-tone. I'm just going to do those ones there. And already he's starting to take shape. So the next one that I'm going to do is I'm going to color his face, like his nose and his hands here. And to do that, I'm going to use the Fair Skin blend, which is, nope, I lied. I'm going to use the tan blend. So this guy's going to have a bit of a tan. So this is my tan blend here. So this is the Fair Skin and the tan blend. So and we'll be able to see this is it. So we've got the light, the mid, and the dark. And I'm just going to turn them onto the side here just so I can see it a little bit better. Color in the nose. So if you're coloring a huge area, so this was a pretty big area, but I was able to keep the color moving enough that it was still fairly saturated and wet in order to put my mid and my dark tone on there. But if you find that it's drying out a little bit too much, or you've got like a really big area, break it down. Like do a leg, or do a what's that? You know, do an arm or do the body or something like that, so that you can keep a wet on wet kind of technique is what you're going to want. Okay. So what I've done now is I'm adding the mid-tone. So I've added it to his nose. So you can't see, there's a very fine line of light up there. And then I've gone pretty far up with this mid-tone, and I've added the mid to his hands. Now I'm going to come in with the dark, and the dark, I'm just going to shade under here like this. Not a lot, just enough. And I'm going to come out from where his beard is and catch the bottom part of the hands here. So his beard would throw a shadow. Okay. Now for this one, I am going to go back to the mid-tone, and I'm going to draw it up. And now I'm going to go back to the, oh, so I'll hold that up, sorry. Okay, so you can see the 3 different lines on the nose and also in the hands. So now what I want to do is I want to take my lightest tone, I'm going to go in, and you can color circles, you can go straight, whatever, it doesn't really matter. All we're doing now is we're just going to take the lightest tone, and it's going to blend all 3 shades together. Okay, so there we go. So you can see that some of the hat is starting to dry a little bit. It's kind of drawing back a little bit, and we've got this nice light area across the top and then down the center where it would have some depth and dimension there for him. Okay, on his nose, let's see here. Do we dare do the red first, or should we do the red last? Let's do the red first. Okay, so I'm going to do this dark red blend. This is my favorite red. It's the Christmas red, so I use it for gnomes and for this one's really the dark red shades. It's very, very dark. But this one is a great Christmas red. It's great for using for like Santa Clauses and things like that. So this red I'm going to use on the patches plus the hearts. So the heart that he's holding plus the patches, but I'm going to do them in a couple of different stages. So I'm going to do this heart first. So, and you want to keep these items, you want them saturated, but not so saturated that they bleed, because alcohol inks can bleed together, right? So they'll bleed outside the lines if you get too much ink on them. So it's a fine line, and you want to practice. Okay? But don't forget that if you do end up having a little bit too much, it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world, because you can fix that, right? You just go in with your colorless blender and you lift it. Push it back, way back. Sorry, my hubby was watching some football things today. So now I'm playing in this heart that he's holding. And I'm assuming that at the top here again, there's going to be the lightest area. So I've got a little bit of light and then I've got some dark. And now I'm going to come in with the darkest shade and I'm going to line right around where his hands are because there would be the most shadow there. And then I'm also just going to go just along the bottom just because there, that's where there would be the least amount of light on this particular item. Okay. Now to get a nice blend between these two, I'm going to take this back to the medium or the mid-tone and just kind of soften the hard dark line. And then I'm going to go back to my mid-tone. And something to keep in mind when you're using these markers, especially when you first get them, pay attention to which side you're flipping to. I've gotten pretty used to flipping from the dark to the light, but you really, nothing buggers up your drawing or your image worse than thinking you're coloring with the light and it turns out, I'm just covering everything with the dark. All it just means is that you just won't have any tone in there. But look at the little heart. It looks like it's got some little bit of depth and dimension. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing now with these hearts here. And these hearts actually have a little bit of the dots in them to show that there is supposed to be some shading and some highlights in them. So I'll follow that ish. Okay, so I'm coming in with my mid-tone and I've just covered over, not covered over, but colored where the shading is. So to show that that's where the tone would be. And this one here. Okay, so I'll see if I can show that to you. I don't know how well this is going to come through. This dark tone might show up better for you on the camera. Let's see here. So now the dark tone, or the shade, the darkest shade, I'm only adding where the dots are, because that's where it's telling me that's where the shadow is. Okay, so on that big heart, maybe you can see the difference. Okay. So these are a small image, so I'm just going to go in here with my lightest, just to blend all three tones together now. Okay. And then I think that these patches would be really cute. I don't want to introduce a ton of different colors into this particular image. We're just going to keep it nice and simple and, well, simple-ish, I guess. So I'm going to color the two patches and I'm starting with my lightest color. Okay, so I've colored in using the lightest color and I'm going to come in from the sides just because I'm imagining that the light source would hit this way. So I'm going to come in from the sides, kind of flicking, leaving a little bit of light there. And because there's a fold over on his hat here, I'm going to imagine that this is the area that would be the lightest. So now I want to add my depth and my shading to make him look like he's got a round head from this side here. Okay. So that you should be able to see pretty decently through here. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to the dark. And so for the dark, I don't need a ton, but I want to highlight this darker area down here. And this would be the darker area where the fold is. So I'm going to go here and then a little bit coming under the bottom of the patch. Right. Now to blend these, so there's a little bit more area on here. I want to bring in my mid-tone. And I'm going to bring that over where I've colored. So I'm bringing it over my darker area and back into my mid-tone where I've already colored. I'm not coloring that over my light color. The light color comes last and it comes all the way over everything. Okay, I'm happy with that. That looks really cute. Yeah, you can see those. You can see where the light is coming in on the top here and right through the center. So it's darker on this side. It's a little darker down here. There you go. All right, I'm going to do his shoes and then I'm going to do his boots or his beard last. So for his shoes, I am going to use tan shades, I think. So we used the tan blend. So he has a tanned nose. He's been a gnome that's been out in the sun a little bit. But this darker brown, this is the tan shades here. So he's going to have some nice brown shoes or boots or whatever these are. So again, I'm going to start with the light, go to the mid, go to the dark. And this stamp is showing me where there are some colored shadow areas. Okay. So I'm going to color in the whole thing to start with. Okay, there we go. Now, with the midtone, I'm going to come in where the shadow areas stay here, okay? And I'm going to come in this way. I want to leave the light here, so I'm going to cover with the midtone. I'm going to pretty much come all the way across just about. Well, I am going to come all the way across with the midtone, leaving the top. But I kind of want to give it a little bit of a curve because his shoes look a little rounded, right? So this one's a little straight, so let's give that a bit of a curve there. All right. Now I'm going to come in with the dark. And the dark is only going to be in these areas where the stamp says there's shading. And I'm sure you're wondering why I colored that bottom piece. Well, those are the soles of the shoes, and I'm going to make them this dark brown all the way across. So he's got some nice, fine leather shoes. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my mid-tone again, and I'm just going to draw it along with bringing it out, going over the dark area that I just shaded, and just keeping it in. I don't need to color over the whole thing of where I have the mid-tone, but I do want to bring it out because it helps to blend that dark tone. Then I'm going to take my lightest tone and I'm going to go in and go over all three areas. So with the shoes, this one's pretty subtle, but you can see where there's a little bit of light just on the top. And of course, because Spirit is hanging down here, that's going to throw shadow onto his shoes. So where it curves over here, we've got some shadow right there. Where it curves over here, you can see that it's shadowed because that's where the curve is. And then down here where his beard is. Okay. So now with his beard, I think I want to go with let's go with some brown gray shades. So the ones that I was debating about here is this one, which is the brown gray blend or the brown gray shades. So I'm going to make them just a little bit darker. So this one's pretty light. I'm going to go with this one, which is a little bit darker. So the brown gray shades, brown gray. So I guess they're the end. So you can see they're all labeled here on the top. So that's, these ones are by name. The Copics are always by number. Okay. So I'm going to fully saturate this area. I'm actually going to do this to the side here. It's a little easier to color and get closer to the areas. So this is my light shade. So, and often with pencil crayons and with, or colored pencils, with if you're from the States, those are all wondering, what the heck's a pencil crayon? Here in Canada, we call them pencil crayons. But in the States, they're called coloring pencils. When you're coloring with coloring pencils, pencil crayons, or water-based markers, the direction that you color in often gets saturated into the nap of the paper. So it will leave streaks or lines behind. So you wouldn't be able to color this way and that way and whatever without it showing almost like a plaid pattern, things like that. You may often find that that's a challenge when you're coloring. With alcohol, though, because it dries, it leaves a nice flat surface. So it doesn't matter if I color in multiple different directions, which is also a nice feature of being able to use these kind of markers. Something that, if that's a look that you really don't like and it's something that keeps you from coloring because every time you go to color, you're not getting the result that you want, that could be one of the reasons why. Okay, so I've fully shaded in now for the beard with the mid-tone. Now I'm going to come in with the darker tone. So this is my, sorry, not the darker tone. This is my mid-tone. Okay, and I'm going to come in here and everywhere that there's supposed to be shading, I'm going to go in with my shader, with my mid-tone. And I want to draw that out a little bit. And I'm going to come up here. And the reason why we're adding these tones in here is because, again, a person's beard, person, a gnome, whatever, they're going to have shifts. Like it's like hair, right? It goes up and down, and it'll have shadows and valleys and highlights and lowlights and all of those different tones to it. Okay. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be flat. Okay. Ooh, right. So I've left a few areas here. I'll just hold that up here in just a minute. Okay, so you can see here, so I've added shading and I've brought it down a little bit. So I'm going to leave some of those lighter areas because I do want some light areas. Now I'm going to go in with my dark tone everywhere where it shows me here. This is supposed to be a little darker, right? Where the stamp is showing me all those little dots, that signifies shade or highlight, or it's a darker area on his body, however you want to think about that. Okay. It means it's a fold in the beard. It's where it's like when he sits or something like that, when he's standing. That could be where his chin is. It's some of these little tricks that we use that can help us kind of trick our eye into taking an image which would be 2D, two-dimensional, obviously, as this is, right? And turning it into something that tricks our eye into thinking it is three-dimensional, so that it looks like it has life and character and colorful and life, basically. Okay, so now you can see. So that's with the dark. Now, because this is a larger area, I'm going to come in now with my mid-tone and I'm going to go over the darker areas and I'm going to draw it out into the mid-tone area. So I want to provide a little bit of extra alcohol for that shadowed area, shaded, new shaded area. I want to draw it out a little bit so that it doesn't have that harsh line. Might add a little bit of shadow underneath his nose still though. And I'm gonna add just a little line under his nose. Out now. stuff. Okay, now I'm going to go over everything. I want to check and make sure that this is my light tone. It is. Now I'm going to go over everything. Blend that all together. Now there is, oh, that's another person who's really great at alcohol marker coloring is the girl from Prairie Paper and Ink. Geez, I can't remember her name now, but her YouTube channel is called Prairie Paper and Ink. She's actually from here in Canada, from Saskatchewan. And she does beautiful alcohol marker coloring as well. And she just bought some Spectrum Noir, and she was talking about how much she hates the bullet nibs because you get this the sound. I don't find it as bad as it nails on a chalkboard, but that's how she describes it. But it can be irritating. You don't get that kind of noise when you're using the brush tips, which is why a lot of people really like the brush tips compared to, right? But that's someone else that if you're looking for somebody who does coloring and you want to see some other examples, for sure, for sure. She's got some really beautiful alcohol marker coloring. Okay, look at that. So cute. So cute. So you can see the different shadows. So it looks like we've got some depth and dimension now in his beard. So some places where it looks like it's come up and some places where it looks like it's gone below. It looks like, you know, this is hidden. So that's standing out a little bit. Sorry, it's not hidden, but the heart is standing out a little bit from where his hands are and everything. So the back of his beard is behind the heart, right? It's not going to be a perfect medium, but that's what it is. Okay. So now I've finished my image. I'm perfectly happy with this. It didn't bleed through too much, so that's not too bad, although you can sort of see the gnome from behind. Okay. So I've chosen, this is a background that I worked on a while ago. It's actually a glitz glitter gel through a stencil. I had originally intended to have it on a much larger slimline, but my stencil moved down here, so I just trimmed it off, and then I went in and blended some dye-based ink over top, and of course it just added a little bit of really nice, beautiful glitz to it, and then took away some of the starkness of the white on there. So I've decided that this is going to look really cool on this. And this is a standard, I believe this is 5 by 6.5 inch card. So this is just from Michaels, one of their card bases. And I think this will be really cute, just stuck on there just like that. I think I'm even going to pop it up a little bit. So I'm going to grab some popping tape here. And not this one. I think that's going to be enough on that one. Time to get some more pop it up tape. That's not the word that I'm looking for, but dimensional tape. Okay. So I'm going to take my panel here and I'm going to put some adhesive on it. And I'm just going to do a single layer. It doesn't need to be any higher than that. I tend to only do higher levels of dimensional tape if I'm doing like a shaker card or something like that. Just one layer is more than fine. And I don't know where my thicker dimensional tape is. I thought I was just going to be gluing this down, but obviously I changed my mind. So this is going to take a few more strips, but that's okay. Whoops. So I like to make sure that the edges are pretty close, pretty good to the edge. I'm using dimensional tape. This is just like, this is from, I think I got this from Dollar Tree. It's like a 3-pack. And, you know, sometimes you can't beat those deals. Just a little bit more. So while I'm doing this, I want to welcome all of my new subscribers. I have to tell you, it is so cool to wake up in the morning and just find out that somebody I don't even know from who knows where has subscribed to my channel. I've had probably 15 or 20 brand new subscribers just in the last week or so. And so I really want to welcome you guys. I don't know you from Adam, and the fact that you chose to subscribe to me and spend time with me is just really amazing. And I want to thank all of my regular viewers as well. A lot of you are good friends of mine, and I really appreciate the time that you guys take to watch my videos. Of course, not one of them is short, but I do like to take you along with the journey. There's no reason why you guys can't make a card or something along with me. So usually I'll do one or two examples, and we call that good. So anyway, I really do appreciate everybody who takes their time to watch my videos. And as I said, I would just really want to welcome all the newbies and all the new people to my channel. I hope that you're getting good value. If there is anything though that you would like to learn about, that you haven't seen um, that I haven't previously talked about or shown in a video, by all means, put it in the comments. You never know. It might be something that's coming up, or I might find it really interesting and I can find some information around it. And, I'd be happy to do another video on something like that. So you just never know. Just put it in the comments, like, subscribe, and for sure, make a comment if you have any questions on anything that I've been doing here today. Please let me know. Okay, so I have just popped that up and placed it pretty center. I mean, I pretty much just eyeballed it. I had a black frame on here, so this is or a mat on here already, which was 5 by 6.5. These stamps, by the way, are woodware stamps. They have the most adorable gnomes. They're so cute. This is going to be a couple of the ones that I'm doing this year for Christmas. I won't be linking them because I don't know how to do all of that. But if you shop through woodware, which you can find on scrapbook.com, many places, yeah, they're great. Even probably woodware, but yeah. So these are going to be some of my Christmas ones that I'm going to be coloring. Like, so cute. Anyway, so this particular stamp is available, or was available anyways. I don't know if it is still available, but through woodware. Now, to finish this off, what I would like to do though, and I'm hoping that this is going to work today, I like to add just a little bit of sparkle, not a ton, but I do want to take these hearts because these are kind of the special part of it, right? So I'm just going to take my Nuvo drops. These are the, I think it's called White Blizzard. So it's the clear with the glitter. You can use stickles or pops of color, whatever you've got. Glossy accents would work too. It just won't have the glitter, but that's okay. It doesn't have to have glitter. Maybe you just like a little bit of shine and dimension. Um, and I'm just going to color in these hearts because I just think that that would just add a little bit just to, say, hey, I'm thinking about you, whatever. Okay, so this one I'm going to leave blank on the inside. I don't particularly need well, I might stamp it with a birthday one or something like that. But now I've put on my thing, so I gotta let that sit and dry. So that's my card today. I did previously color, so I can do some uh little coloring, but I think we're coming up on an hour now, so we're not really going to have time to do that. But I want to show you one other tip, okay? So these are some images that I had colored earlier. And one of the things that really takes our die cuts, or sorry, not well, this could be a die cut, but when you're coloring these kind of images and things like that, you'll notice here that I cut this out. So I fussy cut these because I didn't have the dies for these. These are just Dollar Tree stamps. But you'll notice that on one side here, when I cut it out, you can see the white core of it. So that doesn't make it look like a nice finished image. Versus when I colored the world here, the earth, I actually took my black marker, on that side. Okay, so I take the least threatening side because I have managed to color something and then somehow get it all goopy. I turn it over and then I like to run my black marker. So you can do this with Memento or your alcohol marker, whatever you've got. Okay. and I run my marker over the edge. And then what it does is it just helps finish it off. So it looks like it's a nice clean edge, because especially, you know, with a die cut, you'll often end up having that little eighth of an inch as it cuts around your items. Um, and if you fussy cut, sometimes you get so close that you actually end up removing a part of the stamp. So your black stamped image. Okay, so that makes it look so much nicer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. So this is another background that I created. This was a clear glitter glitz gel. So it was just the white or the clear color, whatever, however you want to think about it. And then I just blended because I wanted to make a galaxy type card. So this was a clear glitter gel through a Starry Night stencil. Okay, so just through a stencil, peeled it up, washed off the stencil because this stuff is a pain in the butt to get off. I'm not gonna lie. The blue one from the previous card that I just did, that one is still on my stencil in some places. It was very difficult to get off, but the results were beautiful. So what are you gonna do? Um, and then I blended with distressed inks. You can use oxides if you want, but I wanted an ink because I didn't want it sitting on top of my glitter. I wanted to be able to wipe it off. And sometimes oxides, because it's got the pigment to it, it can often, it sits on top of things. And then as you go to wipe it off, you're also wiping off your ink. So not only, yes, it would resist where all of the stars are and everything, but if I go to wipe off the distress oxide or a pigment ink, it's still wet because it doesn't sit on top of your paper. It has to dry itself. It sits on, or sorry, it doesn't sink into your paper. It sits on top. So if I went to wipe off my stars and everything, because I wouldn't want my ink to dry on the stars, I would be wiping off my ink. So I like to use either distress ink or a water-based or dye-based ink, okay, because it sinks into the paper. That's what I want. So I want to make a birthday card. So let's look at all of these little critters, because that's what people wonder is, okay, I've got these cute little critters, but now how do I make a card? So I have my background. It's already on there. This is again another 5 by 6.5 card. Um, just by Michaels. It's part of their bulk pack, 50 pack. And on here, I've got like a lemon, shoot, I don't know the colors. I did this so long ago, but I've got a yellow. And I basically just took my blending brushes once my stars were on. Okay, so I did the stars on just white cardstock. I think this is 80 pounds. I don't think it's Nina. I'm pretty sure this is the 80-pound accent opaque paper. And I did a yellow, so I just had it on my blending brush and just wherever. Okay, just did my blending brush and some yellow, and then I did like a citron green around that, and then this is kind of like a peacock feathers or like a tealy turquoisey color, and I did a little here, which then blended into the green, so I get this bluey teal that then gives me kind of a citrony color here, and then I did a purple. So this is maybe I want to say Violet Fields, but that's not what it is. Well, I can't think of the name. Oh, this is probably the Villainous Potion is what this one would be. And then around here in the blues, the darker blue is Chip Sapphire and the new Mariner one. On this one, what I did is I brought in areas of black soot. So I've still got the turquoise and the purple and the yellows and things like that, but I edged it in the black soot to make it a little bit darker, to have that background, to have that galaxy. This one I just did with the Chip Sapphire, like the really, really dark blue. And still, I think it's really, really cool. And I just saw that I have an example here of what I was talking about. Let's see if I can get close enough with something. It's gonna have to be. So you can see here, these ones were actually die cut out, and you can see where the white edge is here. So that can often end up looking unfinished on your project if you don't outline it with black. It doesn't have to be done, but it's one of those tricks, okay? The other thing that we can do is we can take so with this guy, I colored these in. So, and these are my 3 shades of gray. So let's see if you can see that. But then I took a gel pen because this is the mirrored cover. There's no face for this guy. And I covered it with silver metallic gel pen so that I get that really cool machine look. Okay. These guys, once it's on my card, I intend to put glossy accents so that this becomes, I'm also going to do it over the silver as well, but so that this becomes like those glass helmets that an astronaut will wear. That's what I did here. You can see the shine, so it gives it kind of like a plasticky finish. Same thing here. Yeah. So that's what I will do that once it's down and adhered in place. Now, if you want, what you can do is add little accents. So I went in and I colored a little bit of the white gel pen on their teeth and their eyes just to keep them bright. I added a slightly bigger dot to his eye so that he looks a little hello there kind of thing. Can also add in just a little bit of white here, a little bit of white here, which will be makes it look like his helmet is rounded. So you can see the difference between the two. He had a lot of black space in there, so I added that. I can do the same thing here and here. Even though it's covering her up a little bit, it just adds that extra little bit of brightness, but it also makes it look like it's rounded. As you can see here, they actually left a space on the stamp that I colored that in with white, but that is actually part of the stamp. That's where the reflection of whatever light source in space would be off of the mirror of the front of his helmet. Okay. So those are ways to add, again, a little bit more depth and dimension to these little creatures. So as I said, I'm going to make this into a birthday card. So I have this really awesome happy birthday stamp. This is from Simon Says Stamp. Sorry, it's not a stamp. It's a die that has the shadow, and I just cut it out of the shadow. I just cut out of heavyweight white cardstock that was a cast off, so it's a scrap because I didn't need it to be super big. And I'm going to use liquid adhesive, and I'm going to be a little generous because the stars have a lot of texture. So I want to make sure that at least in some points, this thing is going to stick to my background. And I'm going to set this off just a little bit off to the left, and I don't want to center it. I do want to have it off a little bit to the left. And I'm going to hold my hand on there for a couple of seconds just to allow the glue to adhere to the paper. So it's not just adhering to my stars. I want to make sure that I'm getting contact in a few different places here. So this particular die has the shadow and then the words for it, and it's from Simon Says Stamp. They have many wonderful dies of their own brand, and that's what this is. And then the happy, which is done in this really cool iridescent. A friend of mine showed me how to do this. She bought these party plates from Dollar Tree. So it's these cardboard iridescent, and you just cut around the edges here so that it's fairly flat going through your die cut or through your die system. And then you get these beautiful, if you don't want to have to invest, or you're a little short on cash at the time and you don't want to have to invest in iridescent paper, or you don't have a foiling machine, you just want to be able to use dies. Well, this is a really inexpensive way of doing it. You can get smaller ones. So there's 12 in this pack. And so for us in Canada, it's $1.50. In the States, it would be $1.25. But they also have these really adorable rainbow ones. Okay, and so they have them in these ones, and then they have the slightly bigger ones, which I was able to get 3 out of this. 3 die cuts out of the larger one. And let me show you that one, because look at so pretty. Anyway, so just a tip, if you're a little short on cash and looking to have a little something something. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to kind of center my little creatures here around my sentiment. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing some attention to my sentiment. Not that with the iridescent on it or that it needs it necessarily, but I kind of want this. I'm almost imagining that the happy birthday is like this spaceship that they're coming out of, right? If I had this, it's your birthday, and I was doing, let's say I was doing some penguins, or I had a Merry Christmas, or let's say it was Let It Snow, and it's this nice kind of elongated and flat area, this would be really cute to actually just have my penguins or a snowman or something just sitting right on Let It Snow. And it's easy peasy. Put a tree or something and a snowman, let it snow, you're good to go, right? Okay. Now this guy, so that's down. Yeah, it's pretty good. This one, this little pink crazy Martian, ET, whatever you want to call him. Maybe it's not a Martian.
Yeah.
I want over here, and it's going to be a little off center, and that's okay. That's what I want. Okay, now we're going to have the planet here, and I'm tilting. So this one is kind of tilted this way. I'm going to tilt this one this way. This one, because she's off center, but I've actually stood her up so that it kind of helps my planet to kind of go that way. Those are just some of the things to think about when you're designing your card and playing with a layout and whatnot. Okay. And then there is this teeny tiny little star that I colored as well. And I think it's there, like there. Where do I want it over here? Hmm. Decisions. No, you know what? I think I like it best right over there. So I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive so it's not, you don't have too much squidging out there. And I'm going to stick it down here. And now I know you're talking about these two here, but those are going to go on the inside of my card. So I'm not going to be stamping my sentiment today, but I do have this cute little guy here. So now, because the inside of the card is just cardstock, there's no texture or anything like that. I don't need to use quite as much adhesive as I was using for the front. So in this guy, I want to send H down here. I actually found this stamp set because in April, I have my husband's family had, there's three, four, yeah. So with all of the birthdays for the cards and everything that I make and like to send out, I like to, particularly since COVID, I've tried to stay in touch with family that we haven't been able to see a lot by sending them birthday and Christmas cards. So even the kids, they get their own individual birthday cards. And I went to go send these cards to these kids, and I realized I don't really have any kitty cards. Like little boy cards and things like that. The fairies that I make through Lavinia are good for the younger girls and stuff. That's fine. But the little boys, they don't want like grown up type cards. I mean, they like to get mail no matter what, but it's not a lot of fun in it's a, ooh, congratulations on your big day, blah, blah, blah. So I got this cute stamp set because I thought it would be really adorable to send to all these little boys, and they'd be quite happy with that. So I'm going to stick my pin back in here before I forget, and my glue gets all stuck. So this is my adhesive Bearly Art Precision Craft Glue. I've had it for about a year, and I think I'm finally getting down around there. So new glue time coming up. So I like this image here because it kind of looks like he's either getting ready to catch the earth, or he's thrown it up in the air, or I don't know. I just thought it was kind of fun to do that. And then I still have lots of room to put my sentiment and write a message. And then we've got this really adorable little scene coming off of there. Okay. So again, I hope that those answer a lot of your questions, give you some really good tips and tricks on how to color using alcohol markers. Again, this is just a beginner course. There are so many people out there that are really, really talented with this art medium. If you find that you do like it and you want to get involved with that, I really do recommend searching them out and certainly following them and getting, taking a course or two, lots of coloring courses and things through Copic and whatnot. Again, it is pricey to get into with the alcohol markers. So I recommend starting out with either a few, picking the colors that you need to, that you feel you need to have, or maybe you want to try something. If you decide you want to try something like this, you get 24 colors, which actually ends up being 72 colors because you get the light, the mid, and the dark in every single pen. So you get 24 colors to start with. That's one set. And then you can add two and get the second set if you decide, or search out Ohuhu, or there's lots of different options on the market. This is again, this is the most expensive, which is why I did this video last. Pencil coloring or colored pencils obviously is going to be the least expensive. You just need pencil crayons, something that you can put some mineral spirits in, or just even the paper smudgers, and some sandpaper and mineral spirits. Easy peasy, like $10, $10, $15, you're off to the races. With water-based markers or just regular markers, could be Crayola. I mean, you can pick those up at the dollar store, for goodness sakes. Tombows are a more of an art medium kind of watercolor, but you can find more different ones. You can also get them in sets at Michael's for, maybe use your coupons or something like that. So there is an investment in that. But again, in the video 201 that I showed you, the coloring 201, I did that watercolor image with just 3 markers. So start with your lighter colors because you can layer the colors and build up color. You can add more colors, obviously, but if you don't have a huge selection of colors, you don't have to have them all. As you add more color to it, you build up that color. And then the most expensive investment obviously is going to be alcohol markers. And there are different ways of going about that, but if you have questions, if you have another hint or a tip that you would like to pass on to somebody, by all means, please put it in the comments as well, or something that I missed or skipped. Please let me know. And again, if there is something that you would like to learn, put that in the comments too. I do read and hopefully respond to most of the comments. Well, this has been a long enough video. I hope you guys all have a great night, and I will talk to you soon in the next class. Bye-bye.